everyone! So this video is actually elaborating on some posts that I made to Facebook about each of the moon signs in astrology. So they're already uploaded. If you're not already following my Facebook page, Whack-A-Witch Astrology, make sure you go ahead and do that. And these are the posts I'm going to be looking through on my phone. And I'm going to explain why I posted what I did for each of the 12 moon signs, because these graphics really explain something kind of unexpected due to the facade that each of us have. So it's something that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and you wouldn't usually see people of these particular moon signs admitting to other people, but still something that is pretty freaking true. So first sign of the zodiac is Aries, and Aries is associated with the self. Hence they get the reputation for being selfish. But Moon and Aries, I noticed they see things from a different perspective. So let me go ahead and show you. For Aries, what I said is, I may seem selfish, but I hold my own. I defend and protect the people I care about, and I forgive those who deserve it. So Moon and Aries, something you might not realize about them is that they really see everyone together as a unit. All the people they care about, they don't really see that much separation between themselves and their people, their community. They're very bonded. They're very well rooted into things energetically, and they feel so strongly about the people who are in their lives. So if they seem selfish, that's really deceiving, honestly, and I don't think they ever mean to behave selfishly. I think it's just that they act on impulse a lot of times, and they have to get things out of their system and just let it go immediately so that they can move on and move forward. But these same people I also see going out on a limb for the people they care about. You know, there's so much they will do for their friends and the people they love in their life, and they're really good motivators, good at keeping things moving forward, inspiring their friends, uplifting their friends, carrying their friends along with them. So even if on the exterior you see selfishness with Moon and Aries, that's not really what's on the inside for them, at least not most of them. So maybe try to think a little bit more about where they're coming from in their actions. All right, next we have Moon in Taurus. So let's see what I said for them. I said, I may be unexpressive, but I am a deep and caring person. If I stopped caring, then it's probably because you were a jerk. So Moon in Taurus also kind of gets the reputation for not caring, for not being very deep, for not being very sensitive, for not being in tune with what is going on with other people. But the reality is that they do actually care very deeply, and that will show through in their actions. You know, they're very consistent. They don't actually want change. So if they had to break ties with someone, there's usually a really good reason for it. Now, some of them, they're all going to have different boundaries. So whatever it is that's going on that they decide, oh, I just can't put up with this thing anymore, it's not necessarily because they wanted to have to break off the relationship, but there was something there that they just weren't willing to put up with. Now, that's not to say, you know, same as with Moon and Aries, that's not to say that some Moon and Taurus people aren't they themselves the jerks, but boundaries are very important to them, and they do feel things on a very deep level, and the way they feel about things doesn't usually change. So that's one thing we kind of have to envy with them, is that they have much healthier boundaries than most of the other moon signs and most of the other people do. All right, so next we've got Gemini. So what I said for Moon and Gemini people is, if I seem distracted, it's only because there are so many things to focus on. So Moon and Gemini people might seem like they're not really paying attention to what's going on emotionally. And heck, sometimes they might seem like they're not even paying attention to what they're supposed to be paying attention on intellectually. So their mind tends to be kind of in more than one space at a time. You know, they're making connections between different things. Even as someone else is talking to them, they might start to realize something else. And it's not because they don't care what the other person is saying. I actually feel like it's the opposite of that. Like, they really care what the other person is saying. But then, in turn, they really end up feeling that what they have to say is important information for the other person to receive so that they can live a more enlightened life, so that they can learn something new, so they can know something about their current situation. And ideally, it'll be something that'll actually help them move forward. But some Moon and Gemini people might end up seeing like they're just not paying attention to you, like they're not caring. And personally, I've always felt that Moon and Gemini people are really great listeners, but they have a lot going on in their head. So I can understand how sometimes people, when they really expect something emotionally of a Moon and Gemini person, they might end up feeling like the Moon and Gemini person isn't actually there for them. And it's not that the Moon and Gemini person doesn't want to be there for them. It's probably more likely that the Moon and Gemini person is being there for them and being a supportive friend or partner in a bit more of an unexpected way. All right, so Moon in Cancer. Here's what I said. Once upon a time, I may have seemed fragile, but now I know that in my sensitivity, there is strength. So Cancer is one of the signs that can kind of get bullied and picked on a lot because especially when they're younger, they're a little bit more emotional and they oftentimes end up feeling like they don't really know how to process those emotions. And they might seem like they cry a lot. They might have a lot of complaints about like what's going on and how other people are treating them. And on the really negative side, some of them might even become very used to that negative treatment and just be like, oh, it's okay. Like, I'm not supposed to be complaining about the bad stuff that's happened to me, so I'm just going to put up with it. So most of them will have this slightly self-destructive phase in their life where they just let all the bad stuff happen to them. And then they don't know how to react. They don't really know how to stand up for themselves right off the bat. And it's not till a little while later when they start to see things from a more outside perspective that they learn how to stand up for themselves. And then they start to respect themselves more and see, you know, just because I cared about people, specifically, if I cared about people who took advantage of me, just because I did that, that doesn't mean that I'm weak. That doesn't mean that I'm like pathetic or anything like that. You know, wanting to choose the safer option for myself emotionally didn't mean that I was weak. It meant that I cared about what I actually had. Excuse me, I feel like I'm going to cough. I have an allergy problem that's been preventing me from recording videos. Excuse me. Okay, so that was Moon in Cancer. Next we have Moon in Leo. So Moon in Leo says, I may seem dramatic, but that's because I live my life with purpose. So Moon and Leo people, yeah, they can totally be really dramatic about things. If you get them talking about something they feel passionate about, it's almost like nothing else exists anymore. It's just like, Moon and Leo, explosion. We're going to talk about what I care about. And it's almost like they can't hear anymore, honestly. And, you know, I have so many Moon and Leo people who I love in my life, and I've seen them do this, and I'm a solar Leo, so I understand. And I just kind of like laugh it off, like, yeah, you've told me this story like 20 times, but I know that you're really passionate about this and you need to get it out of your system. So, okay, just have another drink or something. So Moon and Leo, I feel like part of the reason why they do this and they react so strongly to situations and they have such like an explosive reaction to them is because they are passionate about life. They are passionate about existence. They don't want anything to be bland. They don't want it to be blasé. They don't want to be boring. They don't want to make it seem like they don't care about anything. They're not game for giving up on things. They're not game for just letting that be like, oh, that sucked. Don't know what to do, but okay. No, so they don't really blow things off like that just because they care so much about what's going on. They are passionate about using their own free will, about expressing the joys of life, expressing the things that have made them mad about life too, and trying to create the type of world that they actually want to live in. So they're unlikely to ever be passive about anything, and you can call them dramatic for it, but to some extent you also kind of have to appreciate their zest for life. All right, so next we have Moon in Virgo. And this one says, I may seem neurotic, but I am a powerhouse of awareness and skill. So Moon in Virgo people, they don't just have the surface level, like, oh, I'm a Virgo, I gotta do things, I gotta worry about things, I gotta take care of everyone and everything else. They have like a more deep level of, this is what I'm concerned about. This is like not just worried, but I'm like really afraid that these things are gonna happen or that things aren't gonna turn out, because they know that life requires everyday effort. And if you don't take care of things, if you don't handle what is going on in life, then it falls apart. So they're willing to put that energy in, both emotionally and oftentimes physically too. You know, Moon and Virgo people are usually hard workers. I see a lot of them working with their hands, specifically doing something to show that they have put energy and effort into creating the world around them. So this fact that they care so much, it also leads them to learning skills that allow them to take care of things. So they have more skills, they have more awareness than what they would have if they had this kind of like chill, blasé demeanor of like, okay, whatever happens, happens. So I have some similarities with Moon and Leo, honestly, but it's expressed very differently. You know, the behavior of a Moon and Leo person versus the behavior of a Lunar Virgo person is going to be like night and day. The way they act is almost the opposite in a lot of ways. And Moon and Virgo people don't seem as dramatic unless you bring up something that they're actually like really afraid of happening. So they're very active because of that, proactive, and making things the way they need to be. All right, Moon in Libra. I may seem uninterested, but that's because I know the value of patience, insight, and weighing my options. So I've heard like a lot of interesting complaints from people who have Moon in Moon in Libra, and a combination of like them not really feeling understood, but then also feeling like they are always kind of unsettled internally. Like they have trouble feeling at peace with themselves and feeling at peace with what's going on. But I think that's also just because they're in tune with what they actually want, if that makes any sense. And they're trying to wait for the right thing. So before they can really just consciously be able to blurt out and declare what they want, I think they have to experience more of what they don't want first. So they wait around, going through life, just kind of taking things in, seeing how it makes them feel, seeing how it actually plays out for them. You know, like if I had a job and at first it seemed like a good job, but they worked me really hard and they didn't pay me that well, then I now know that that's the thing that I don't want. If I date someone who's really attractive, but they don't have anything in common with me and all they do is nag me all the time, yeah, that's something that really doesn't make me feel too great about what's going on. So they're exploring all these things that they don't necessarily want. And honestly, for any of us, most of the things that pass us by in life are things that aren't actually meant for us. They're things that we're not actually supposed to have, and they're jobs, people, experiences that aren't really a good match for our soul's purpose. And Moon in Libra seems to be one of the only people who actually has the patience to sit back and just acknowledge that and kind of take it as it comes and continue to weigh out their options. So I would say it's a little unfair to say that they're just like uninterested or callous or they don't care or anything like that. But more so to say that they are in tune and they care very deeply about what is actually meant for their soul's purpose and what is actually a good fit for them. And they still are interested in meeting people and having the experience and trying out new jobs. It's all a necessary part of life. But they also have this good understanding of the whole like square peg, round hole thing where some things just aren't a good match. Some things just aren't a good fit. And we have to be able to take that as it comes. All right. So Moon in Scorpio. It says, I may seem evil, but that's only because I see into your soul. So this one sounds kind of funny. It sounds like it's supposed to be a joke, but honestly, I was also kind of serious because Moon and Scorpio people are really good at psychologically dissecting people, and they don't even have to put any effort into it. It's like they can look at someone and just instantly know, okay, you're insecure about this thing. You badly want this thing, even though you won't admit that it's what you want. And you're putting on this facade, pretending to be a person that you're not. Moon and Scorpio can really quickly figure out all of those things. And because of that, they end up having pretty strong reactions to people. Sometimes those reactions are of hate, of intense disdain. And, they can go in the opposite direction too. They can be like intense love, like willing to do anything for you, and very romantic even. But Scorpio in general gets the reputation of being evil or being like the dark sign or the bad sign or whatever it is. And I don't think that is true. I think Scorpio is a sign that understands others very easily, and they might have a strong reaction to that, but kind of like the same way Moon in Libra has to, they have to figure out what's best for themselves. They have to figure out how to protect themselves emotionally and how to react to any given situation. So a lot of times they might end up seeming like they're very mean, and people don't usually use the word uncaring to describe Moon and Scorpio. For the record, it would be false if they did, because Moon in Scorpio is like one of the most intensely caring moon signs that I've met. But I think what people end up thinking instead is, oh, this person's just like an utter jerk. Like this person just wants to destroy me, wants to destroy my life. They're not going to do anything nice for me. They're just doing all these mean things because blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And that's how they kind of get the reputation for being evil. That's how Moon and Scorpio gets the reputation for being a bad placement, and they tend to react very intensely emotionally. That's why I've never actually heard someone complain of Moon and Scorpio being uncaring, but instead complaining that it's just like a bad placement, like they're just evil, bad people. Well, here is the kind of sad truth. They're not really evil. They just tend to see into your soul, and they tend to see some really bad things about people. And it's not that the world around them is all like knowingly and consciously aware of their behavior. That's actually part of the problem. The problem is that most of us aren't as self-aware as we would like to be. But thankfully we're studying astrology, and that's one tool that helps a lot with self-awareness. So If you have a lunar Scorpio in your life and they seem like they're being evil, like try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like don't do anything to shorthand yourself, but still try to take a more objective look at things, I would say. All right, so Moon in Sagittarius says, if I seem rude, it's only because I have better things to do than waste my time on your BS. So, Moon in Sagittarius is one of those types of people to really quickly just cut people off, just to discredit what they say. Just be like, nope, that's not true, moving on. Or, nope, that's not important, I don't care, I'm moving on. Or, I don't have time for this, I don't want to participate. Or, I don't really want to hang out, so I'm just not going to hang out. And that's why they get the reputation for being blunt, for, on the negative end of things, potentially being rude. But these, in a more kind way, we can look at this and say that Moon in Sagittarius is someone who really values their time. Time is limited, let's not waste it. Let me go and do all the things that I wanted to do today, the things that I was planning to do today, and not waste my time on this thing that I don't really want to waste my time on. And yeah, at times that might seem rude, it might seem insensitive, it might seem like they're uncaring, and I do think this is a fairly straightforward placement, and if that's your experience with them, then they probably really don't care about that thing that they weren't willing to make time for. Because I think when Moon in Sagittarius does care about something, then they are willing to make time for it. But it goes back to that whole concept that not everything that comes to us in life is actually meant for our own souls and their purpose and our development and growth throughout our lives. So not everyone can do everything, and Moon in Sagittarius tends to know that they have specific things that they are supposed to be doing, and they feel that they can't do those things if they make the wrong sacrifices, and they sacrifice their time in a way that they shouldn't be sacrificing their time. All right, Moon in Capricorn. And this is a moon sign that has, I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of secrets, not a lot of things that they're intentionally keeping from people, but they tend to just put on a really thick facade. So me as a lunar in Capricorn, I feel like I've gotten torn to pieces by lunar Scorpios because they see through me so many times, and there's perhaps moments where I wasn't even able to see through myself. And I felt like some of the lunar Scorpios in my life were very mean to me. But at the same time, learning about astrology, learning about the signs, the wisdom that I've gained about it, the perspective that I have gained, I don't see it that way anymore. I don't see it as a personal attack. So this is what I actually said for my own moon sign. I may seem shallow or selfish. The truth is, I don't know how I seem. I have a lot going on inside of me. All I do is try very hard to keep it together. So one of the hard things about being a lunar Capricorn is that we hold back our emotions. And, a lot of people will describe that they have to try so hard to bottle it all in, but Moon in Capricorn actually just does it. That's our first reaction. We just do it on accident. We're like, oh, I'm going to hold back. And we have to learn to be more expressive, and we have to learn to let the energy flow a little bit more. So, yeah, totally just exposed myself. Anyway, moving on to Moon in Aquarius. It says, I may seem distant, but the truth is, that's how I feel. So Moon in Aquarius people do tend to feel kind of distant. They do tend to feel like they're not as included, like they're not going to be considered a priority in people's lives. So a lot of times they do pull away from people. They do create that distance between themselves and others, but that's because that's how they're already feeling internally. They tend to feel like they're on the outside, just kind of looking in at everything else, watching life as it happens. But what can be kind of sad is they might feel like they're not fully immersed in the experience, almost like a very different problem from what the rest of the signs have. they feel like they're not as caught up in the moment. They're not as caught up in their own feelings. They're not as strongly affected by their own feelings, and they're still affected emotionally. On an emotional level, they are definitely still affected. There's no getting around that. But on a like outside level and how they actually react to things, how they actually behave, they don't let their emotions influence their actions as much as pretty much any of the other signs do. So the way they're feeling and the way they're reacting to things a lot of times just won't add up super fast. And that's part of the reason why people struggle to understand them. People look at them and struggle to understand how they're actually feeling, what is actually going on in their head. You know, what is the thing that they actually want in life? And then the lunar Aquarius is kind of like in the background floating like, oh, I don't know, I don't know what I want something, or, you know, I just want what everyone else wants, but I don't quite know how to get it. So I think, I don't know if you guys are going to be mad at me for saying this, so I'm sorry in advance if you are. You can nag me in the comments if you want to. But I think to some extent, Moon in Aquarius is actually very simple. You know, they kind of want the same things that everyone else wants. They just feel like, for one, they might be concerned that they're not going to be able to get it. And also they feel like they don't know how to get it. They don't just know how to like go after it and get the thing that they actually want in life. And they're kind of watching from a distance, just watching other people do it and be like, wow, it was that easy for them, huh? And, you know, it doesn't occur to them that, hey, if it's easy for other people, then there's nothing wrong with you. It can be easy for you too. You know, you can still have the thing that you wanted just as easily as anyone else could. And by the time you actually go after the thing you wanted, you might be like totally surprised, like, wow, that was easy. I pretty much got it as soon as I went after it. So that is the lunar Aquarius secret. Let me know how I did on that one. Hope I didn't offend anyone. Okay, so very last sign, Moon in Pisces. It says, everyone calls me sensitive, but I am only stuck with the burden of expressing what everyone else is repressing. So this is such a neglected truth of Moon in Pisces. You know, they get accused of being crybabies all throughout their lives. You know, we think they're not, we're so judgy. Like, people in general are just so judgy, and we look at people who cry and all that, and we think, oh, they're just not emotionally strong because I'm so emotionally strong. I know how to hold it all in. I know how to not express myself. Like, as if that's actually the way we're meant to live, which I don't think it is. I don't think that's the truth. And, you know, people judge Moon in Pisces people a lot. And especially when, like, a Moon in Pisces person will come up to you and they'll be, like, really, really compassionate about your situation. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I know this must have caused you so much pain. And then the person they're talking to just gets really defensive, like, what, pain? No, I don't have pain. I don't have feelings. What are you talking about? So, yeah, that's something I appreciate about Moon in Pisces people that I think is usually pretty neglected about them. And I don't feel like they're actually like more sensitive or more emotional than anyone else is, but they just express it with less boundaries. So it's one thing that also kind of sucks for them. They might not have good boundaries with other people in their life, but they are good at showing people, like, you know, what emotions actually are, and they're very close to the truth of what is going on. But at the same time, they probably don't feel that way because being so, like, open emotionally and not having the big blockages and everything that keep you distant, that keep you objective, it might feel like that gets very confusing at times. But yeah, you don't deserve to be made fun of or anything like that. That's what I have to say. So anyway, I managed to get through all 12 signs. Again, I have graphics for this posted on Facebook as well as my website. I created a little section for graphics on my website so that it'll be easier to find things that you were looking for, and you can just look through all the images and memes and stuff that I've created. And you may have noticed that I have not been able to edit my videos. I haven't had a video editor in years now. I don't know how many years, but I haven't been able to get a new webcam, video editor, any of that stuff, and I've had trouble finding time to make videos on top of that. So if you want to help me out and kind of take a little bit of the load off my shoulders, just like a little bit, then you can check the description below for a link to my Patreon, where you can give me like maybe $3 a month or something like that, you know, and that would be really helpful. As always, if you want readings, I'm here. If you have a question or you want to learn more about astrology, I recommend joining my group on Facebook. And if you are not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you've hit the subscribe and the bell button. And I will see you again soon. Bye.